Alright, so last time you guys voted for Stimpaks, which is probably the most interesting of the three upgrades to get.
Yes, I predict that there will be much stim packing in the future.
One thing I didn't show off last time is that some of these characters
Sir, any chance you'll
can
get the
give
lab up
little
and running
single-line
soon? That'd be great.
dialogues that aren't really cutscenes.
Holding course, Commander.
And they generally
Something's
have a
playing
few
havoc
different
with
lines
these sensors. I'm on it.
to talk about.
Home,
Yeah,
sweet home.
Ambiance, I guess, for the
I'm getting too damn old for
environment
this.
between missions.
Ah, I like all the pretty lights.
That's my favorite Raina quote. Alright. And we're going to Agria
Ship receiving this transmission.
to evacuate a
The
colony.
Zerg are invading Agria. The Dominion abandoned us here. We're just a small
Oh,
farming
fire
colony.
badge.
We've got to evacuate before we're overrun. If you can hear this message, please help us.
So we're going to be goody two-shoes and save some people.
Incoming transmission.
It's always nice.
Thank you so much for responding to our distress call, Commander. I'm Dr. Ariel Hansen, and I represent the people of the Agria colony.
Pleasure to meet you, Doc. You can call me Jim. What's the situation?
The Zerg have overwhelmed our planetary defenses. The colony is lost. For the past 12 hours, we've been evacuating people to the nearest starport, but the Zerg attacks have become so intense, we can't get any more through. If you can guard the highway, we can start sending the remaining groups every few minutes.
Don't worry, Doc. We'll get your folks through to that starport safe and sound.
I pray you're right, Commander. The Zerg are more terrible than I ever imagined.
Fueled up, ready to roast.
And we got our new unit right here. Introduced first thing.
Not the dropship. Fire rats.
Not the dropship.
Cowboy, these suckers have got flamethrowers that'll roast the Zerg, but good.
Yeah, so fire bats, like in the original, are very good against light units like Zerglings, Zealots,
My attention.
but they're a whole lot more tanky in Starcraft 2. They've got 100 health, and they're also armored biological units, which,
Ready to fry.
well, a unit type depends on the damage that they take from different attacks. Like, for example, this fire bat is good versus light units. They've got 4 extra damage versus light units.
That's 4 extra damage per attack, and they attack twice, so it's actually 8. So, or wait, no, that's 1. Never mind, reading is hard.
Yes, reading is
But
hard.
yeah, they do more damage against light units.
Fueled up.
And the Banelings, the kamikaze units that the Zerg have, actually do considerably more damage against light units. So, if you recall the unhappiness from the survival mission of the little green Baneling units that were blowing up against the Marines, with some fire bats there, they wouldn't have been much of a problem.
Well done.
And one thing that we saw just a little bit was some environmental destruction. That these fire bats will burn crops. Hey, burn. Why won't you burn? There we go. I think that's a little cool.
Doesn't show up very often, though.
I think there will be a couple other situations
Thank
where we see
goodness
some
you're
nice
here.
environmental
I'll give
interactions.
you control of the main building so you can help us evacuate the colony.
Fueled up.
So hey, more base building.
Yep.
Kind of.
I think one person wanted me to zoom in on a base being built, so here it is. So
Yes.
kind of 3 stages, just built, starting out, they get this scaffold, and then eventually
About
it'll...
halfway through, yeah, they get bigger each time. It's
Yeah.
very nice.
And then you see the actual building as that's going to become.
We'll need to escort the convoys all the way to the main starport for them to have a chance of escaping this planet.
The first convoy from Lark's Crossing will be moving out soon.
It's worth mentioning that Protoss have the most boring unit construction that doesn't really change. Unlike the Terran and Zerg building construction. So-
Does the Zerg change?
Yeah, the building gets bigger.
Oh,
The larva inside gets larger and the
Ready to fry.
thing gets bigger. We'll see later.
yeah, I think it's going
um,
to take us a long time to get to that. But Interesting.
I don't know, the computer likes to try to rebuild stuff that you break, so if there are Zerg buildings on this map that you destroy, they might try to rebuild.
Yeah, but I don't think we're gonna stick around long enough to watch it being built.
Sightseeing Marines.
Don't stop for anything. Let's roll.
Yep, so, I think we can kind of conclude that Kerrigan isn't exactly commanding this particular assault just because we have a bunch of Zerg attacking the refugee train, I guess, instead of killing the starport, which seems like the much smarter thing if they wanted to kill everyone.
Yeah, well, that starport is defended by some auto turrets, man.
We all know that auto
The
turret.
Dominion military abandoned them when the Zerg attacked. They didn't give a damn about the colony.
Sorry to hear that, Doc. At least these...
We were kind of not explaining very many of the Zerg units last time. So I think we go into a little more depth in this mission.
Yeah.
But there are bunkers that you're salvaging. What's up with that?
Yeah, so those bunkers, I don't think they're very useful. The problem with that is that while they're positioned at a choke point, the Zerg will attack in a lot more places than just those choke points. So if you want to defend with bunkers, you have to make, like, just with bunkers, you need to make, like, 20 of them everywhere. And it's just not worth it.
Oh. Yeah, the defensive stuff like this is boring to play and more boring to watch, so it makes sense that we wouldn't want to do that here. So, we've seen 3 different Zerg units so far this mission. Hydralisks, which are the typical Zerg unit that are ranged and shooting at that fire bat a second ago. Roaches, which just popped up out of the ground, so 4 now. Roaches are more heavily armed units that don't do a lot of damage per second, but they hit hard with each attack. Roaches also have a lot of health, a short range, and some natural armor. Hydralisks, in contrast, are basically super marines, if you want to think of them that way. They have almost twice as much health, and do about twice as much damage per second, but they're also much more expensive. Overlords, which is that flying unit that was pooping creep, are functionally flying supply depots, and has been discussed in the thread, allow the Zerg to move much faster, and also to regenerate health more quickly than when they're off creep.
Yeah, so of those units, the ones that the Firebat does extra damage to are the Zergling and the Hydralisk.
Yeah, the Zerglings are the little melee units that we've seen in every mission with the Zerg, and you'll see them in every single Zerg mission. They are incredibly cheap. You can actually... Zerg players can make 2 Zerglings for the same cost as a Terran player can make 1 Marine. And that little green bastard was a Baneling.
Yes.
They're little kamikaze units that do splash damage and do a lot of damage against light units.
Yeah, and it was burrowed, so it just popped up right under us. So not even a chance to micro against it.
Nope. It's worth mentioning that very rarely in multiplayer games you'll see players burrow banelings like that. But you don't, if it's controlled by a player, they don't even have to unburrow before exploding. So, a little difference there, but they aren't employed that often.
The doctor is in.
So, what is your general strategy for this mission, Carlton?
So, generally, you just want to keep your troops near the armored personnel carrier. That's basically it. Occasionally there'll be forces that'll like attack behind and you want to kill those, and it'll try to bring your army back. Oh, there's my force getting killed there. Whoops.
You didn't need him anyway. So, you may notice that the armored, or the APC that you'll see here looks a lot like the Dominion APC from an older mission. But it's not the same unit. It looks the same, but it has slightly different stats. I think it may even be squishier. But, not quite the same unit.
I figured it was pretty much the same. It looks the same.
It has a different name.
That's true, it's an armored personnel carrier.
And it's got units inside of it, like, for real. So, Viewers may have noticed that there have been little orange things on the map that Roldan has been picking up, which awards him Zerg research. That's a whole nother part of this LP that you guys will get to vote on.
Additional supply depots.
In addition to unit upgrades, there are also, I guess we can call them racial research projects, so Zerg and Protoss research projects that have larger effects than one thing, or one effect for one unit,
Commander, another
which I'm sure we'll get to
heading
later.
out soon.
Yep.
But for now, rest assured that we're going to want to get as much of that as possible.
Yep, we won't.
Usually they're tied to bonus objectives too.
Right, we won't quite see that after this mission, but after the next mission, we'll finally be able to get some researching in, and actually be able to see what we can get out of that.
The Zerg and Protoss research projects are generally much more powerful than the single unit upgrades, with the exception of Stimpack.
Is that true?
In my opinion, Stimpack is the most important unit upgrade in the game.
Well, I think there are some pretty poor research upgrades that you can get, so I wouldn't quite say that.
Okay, yeah, that's true. There are some really bad research projects, but in general, they tend to have bigger effects.
You gonna give me orders?
Whether those effects are useful, I don't know.
Armed and ready.
Not enough minerals.
Want some?
So, I don't know if we mentioned this the first time through, on the defense mission. That was the first time you could research weapon and armor upgrades, right?
Yes, it was.
So, you have the between mission unit upgrades, like Stimpack and combat shields and stuff, which once you get them on your ship, they're permanent. But you also have, within each mission, unit upgrades, so in this case, armor, infantry, and weapons, which make your units do more damage and take less damage, respectively.
Additional supply depots.
Usually they're fairly high priority to research, since it improves them your units all mission long. It makes you much more efficient at murdering things.
You might notice that I'm not really stimming very much, because I'm pretty much killing things before they actually... So here's... before they actually can attack me, so stim would actually hurt my units more than it would help.
And as you say that, you stem.
Yes. But stim does get healed very quickly by medics. So
Yes.
it's generally helpful to have. But now that we've sent a couple colony ships, we've got a pretty large army.
Additional supply
Let's go scout out the Zerg base.
Additional
I think
supply
it's time for an
depots
expedition.
required.
I think it is.
Additional supply depots required.
Sounds like a plan. Oh, and we didn't mention this before, but the reason we were talking about those bunkers earlier, there's
Additional supply depots.
an achievement in this mission for not letting any of the bunkers die. And it's boring, so... So that giant unit that we just saw was an Ultralisk. It's a heavy assault unit that can take and dish out a substantial amount of damage.
Ready to be escorted, Commander.
We have so many things going at us, so... Flying units are Mutalisks, which I believe we've mentioned before, but didn't talk about in detail.
Yep.
They do relatively light damage, but they hit multiple units with each attack. Jeez, so now we have Infestors, Ultralisks, Corruptors, Overseers, Drones,
Pretty much the
and Infested Terrans.
The whole
Jeez.
arsenal of the Zerg.
Thinking this is going to be so obnoxious that it might even be easier to just go ahead and do some sort of write-up or something.
Yeah, but basically what's important is that Zerg units are spawned by these hatcheries, these larvae that are produced by the hatcheries, create Zerg units, and these tech structures allow the larvae to be morphed into Ultralisks or Roaches or whatever Zerg unit
Right,
you
so
want.
basically with Zerg, if it's not a hatchery, which can then go up to a lair, which can then go up to a hive, those were hives. It's either a defensive structure, as in the spine crawlers that were hitting his units, spore crawlers, which are the little buildings that aren't really there, that are anti-air structures. If they aren't one of those, then they're tech buildings, which allow for upgrades or new unit types. And it only takes one, say, Roach Warren to let every structure or every Zerg production facility make roaches.
So whereas we need to make a bunch of barracks if we want to make a bunch of marines, the Zerg only need hatcheries if they want to make a bunch of ultralisks, a bunch of roaches, a bunch of whatever they want.
I would say in this case it's more analogous to say if you want to make fire bats, for example, or medics, you need to have tech labs on every barracks that will be producing that type of unit. For Zerg, if they have a roach warren, every hatchery can make roaches.
Not enough minerals.
That's true, that's a good way to put it.
Because, you know, Zerg will still need multiple hatcheries
Not enough
to
minerals.
have similar production capacity to a whole lot of barracks. So Relden here showcasing why he's much better at this game than I am,
Depleted.
doing two things at once.
Doing two things at once. Sometimes the
It's
hardest
the worst. So, man, I did not expect this many Zerg units in this mission.
thing. Yeah, so the bases are pretty well defended. And they've got a lot of things, just a lot of different units.
Man, so, when we said we weren't going to discuss the Zerg units, it was because they throw so many at us at once. So I don't know why there are corruptors in this mission, honestly. The
They're
little flying squid monsters. They're anti-air
We're almost
exclusively.
there,
because you
Commander.
can
And at
actually
this point,
yeah. These missions
Uh,
are non-linear, so you can take them whenever you want. So you can actually do this late mission much later, and you can have a bunch of air units. So they can actually be useful.
So I guess one thing I'm kind of curious about with this whole non-linear mission setup that they have is that
Not enough minerals.
the high-tech units that you see, like corruptors and junk that stay around the Zerg bases, they just kind of chill there, even if you come back later? Or I wonder if there's a trigger that makes the AI attack with them if you have a certain unit type or whatever.
Oh, so the Zerg
So we can
does
see
grow.
Zerg structure production. Yes, so the structures start out really little, and then get bigger, and bigger, until eventually they turn into the whole structure.
And then
That's
they
the last
explode.
stage.
I guess that's what happens.
They have, these Marines have anti-building rounds in their weapons.
Alright, so this should be the final colony ship. Or we should be able to load the final colony ship. And then finish this mission with
you-
this carrier.
Did you actually end this before the Nightish start showing up?
No,
there they are.
Nightish.
So, we had mentioned, or I had mentioned in the thread, that Nidus works completely differently now. In Brood War, Zerg could place a Nidus canal structure,
Minerals.
which would then let them place an exit, and it was basically a two-way tunnel that would allow instantaneous travel between two bases. Now, they make a building called a Nidus worm colony. I think it's a Nidus colony or something. I don't remember what it's called exactly, because no one ever uses it. But, it allows them to make Nidus worms, which are those things that erupt from the ground. So it's a much more aggressive building, I think. And they work basically like transport ships. You load units into either the worm or the building, and then unload them from the other place. Whereas in Brood War, they were instant travel from one place to another. So they were always two-wayed. In this place, you could theoretically move Zerg units from one worm to another worm, back to the colony, from any worm. They're also really expensive, like, was it 200 minerals, 200 gas, or some crazy price like that?
I don't know. They're expensive, but it doesn't matter. The computer can do whatever they want. They're not constrained by resources.
Of course not.
Hey, where'd all my troops go?
But my people got out alive, thanks
I don't
to
know.
you, Commander.
Maybe they were just replaced by Zerg. Huh. I just noticed that transport is one of the ones that we could maybe get later.
Yes, it is. Alright, so we got this mission. And we salvaged those bunkers, so we didn't get all the achievements, but it went pretty well. And didn't lose a single colonist.
Good job.
Great job, sir. Dr. Hansen's offered to stay on with us for now, and I think her skills will be invaluable.
It's hard to believe I'm even here.
Great to have you, Doc. How you planning on pitching in?
Well, your medical facilities are medieval, and your science expertise is non-existent. Perhaps I could start there.
Ouch. Well, I guess you might be able to teach Stedman a thing or two. Welcome aboard, Doc.
New crew members.
Fantastic. We don't really know anything about Stetman, the lab guy, so we don't really know if the doctor was being condescending or not.
Business.
That I am, Mr. Hill. And fighting a Zerg and Dominion all at once is going to take its toll on my standing forces. You got any guns for hire?
But you know the invasion makes it a seller's market right now. Still, your bartender over there makes a hell of a Mai Tai. So, sure, I've got some mercenary contracts you might be interested in.
You're all heart, Mr. Hill.
And great, we're introduced to something else that we can spend our money on, mercenaries.
Yay!
So, mercenaries are units that, from a mercenary compound, you can just summon in and will be pretty much immediately produced. And they're basically better versions of your basic units.
Yes, so if you played Starcraft 1, you may remember units like Hunter Killers, which were just super Hydras. This is how these work. So the War Pigs are super Marines, and the Devil Dogs are super Firebats.
So I think I'm just going to buy all the mercenary contracts just to show them off, because I think the mercenaries are pretty cool. And they're basically better versions of your regular units, so they're just nice to have. So I'm just gonna...
And they look different,
yeah.
Which is nice.
And they're really not too expensive, so I'm not spending the whole bank on hiring some mercenaries. But I do want to show them off, so I will get them. War Pigs are crazy useful in pretty much every mission. Devil Dogs will have their use. I'll use them occasionally.
It's worth mentioning, too, that War Pigs are basically just given to you. So everyone will have them.
And we've got a new area to explore, the cantina. So this is kind of a...
it's the bar.
It's the bar, it's
Part
Joey
2.
Ray's. I also like the sign under the TV, don't shoot at screen.
Yeah. What about the dancing night elf in the upper
yeah.
left-hand corner?
Oh yeah, that's also a really nice addition too. Let's check out the badge.
Just behind on Marsara. How did it? Tychus. Just can't let it go, can you? I should really take this.
One of those little things that we can interact with.
It's cool or something.
Yeah. The arcade thing over there is a whole nother mini game that you can play, but I think that would be better as a separate update entirely or something if we were going to show that off.
Yeah, Lost Viking. I'll show that off in a bonus update. It's just a shoot 'em up basically, where you play as a Viking and you go through a bunch of stages. Pretty simple arcade mini game.
Yeah, the idea behind it was Blizzard wanted to show off how useful their arcade, their editor, I guess, how strong it was by making an entirely new game within StarCraft 2. And they just threw it in the campaign.
Yep. And it is pretty cool. I like it. I think it's fun. So I'll show that off.
I actually managed to get the silver medal achievement on this back when I was playing Wings.
Very nice. I have not gotten any of the achievements, by the way. So I'll work on that.
Takes a very long time to get them.
Oh yeah, and besides the badge, we can also talk to all these people. All these crew members.
Old Cooper sure makes a mean Mai Tai.
I never even realized you could do that.
Drink it.
Buy a
Yep,
girl a
and they've all got a couple of things, and I think they switch places.
Got some help lined up for you.
I think they're not always in these areas.
Maybe even two.
Good to know.
Now, I know you ain't here just for my lively conversation.
You meet Dr. Hanson yet?
Sure did. I asked that sweet thing if she'd like to give me a physical. No harm in asking, right? I think she's got her eye on some pansy ass, though.
Yeah? Who might that be?
Oh, I don't know. Some white knight kind of guy came charging down to save a colony, maybe. Damn, Jimmy. You never could read the ladies.
I think he's talking about Jim.
He could be talking about Matt. You don't know.
It's true, it could be. A little bit of a souvenir from Joey Ray.
Maybe it goes with the skull.
Donnie Vermillion, UNN. We've got Kate Lockwell on remote feed from Agria, a fringe colony. Are you there, Kate? Okay, we seem to be having a sound problem with... I'm being told Emperor Mangsk is going to address us directly. Let's take you to his announcement, already in progress.
My finest military minds are being brought to bear, and it's my pleasure to announce that they'll soon be led by the hero of Taurus himself, General Horace Warfield.
Warfield? I thought he retired years ago.
With General Warfield at the helm, and our finely honed Dominion military under his command, I have every confidence that this new Zerg threat will be contained very soon.
There you have it, viewers. With Warfield in command, the Zerg swarm will be defeated in no time. Up next, Raynor ups his campaign of terror just as the Zerg reappear. Coincidence? You decide after these messages.
So we get a little bit of news of Manx taking action against the Zerg as well.
Well, it's good to know that we aren't fighting them alone, I suppose.
So now that we've got a new unit, Firebat, we can also check out the Firebat upgrades that are now available in the armory. So some Incinerator Gauntlets basically improves the Firebat's AoE and just makes them more effective against groups of units.
I don't know how useful that actually is. Then again, I've never really relied on Firebats in StarCraft 2, so...
Well, they're already pretty damn good at killing Zerglings, and this just makes them even better.
Fair enough.
Granted, against, like, big single units, it's obviously worthless, but it can have its units against masses, or have its worth against masses of units.
Gotcha.
And then Juggernaut Planet gained an extra 2 armor, which basically makes Firebats, which were also already good against killing Zerglings, just amazing, and their tanking ability, which is alright, just very good.
So Firebats, by default, have 1 armor. This takes it to 3. So since the Zerglings that we encounter will start doing 6 damage per hit, they normally do 5, and this would make them do 3 damage per hit. So, you know, Firebats will never die to Zerglings.
Yeah, put a single Firebat and a medic, and they can take on infinite Zerglings. Until the medic dies.
Yeah, pretty much.
Alright, and then we can also get the Stabilizer med packs, now we have enough money to actually afford that.
So, there will be another vote coming in the thread.
Yep, we'll have to find out how we spend our money. And we can also look at details of whatever new units that we get. So we can just check out some of the lore, I guess, behind what Firebats are.
Including a choice quote.
So we've got Firebats here. When we get new units, they should appear in this armory.
Some of them do. I don't know if all of them do, but there are a good 5 or 6 units that will show up in there.
Yeah, I don't remember. Some of them will show up here.
what's going on the bridge?
We've got Dr.
I've heard
Ariel.
a lot about you, Commander. The Dominion always portrayed you as a criminal, terrorist. There's more to you than it seems.
Well, with the Dominion being what it is, someone's got to stand up for the little guy. It sure ain't gonna be Mengsk.
Doesn't seem like the Emperor cares at all. My people from Agria and displaced populations from across the sector have all fled to a refugee staging area on Meinhof. There are reports of violence and disease spreading throughout the camps, but the Emperor's done nothing.
I'll look into it, Doc.
Following up, I guess, on Ariel Hansen's story, or storyline.
It sure felt good
We'll have a few
Oh,
missions.
story arcs. Multi-mission story arcs. What is this craziness?
Can't be everywhere at once, sir. The important thing is that we set an example and gave them hope. Every time we help folks in need, it's another step on the road to a better future.
I know, Matt. But it's been 4 years and we're still no closer to bringing Mengsk down. Now with the Zerg back in the mix, your better future needs to hurry up and get here, or there's gonna be no one left to see it.
Right. I think we've talked to everyone, so let's check out our missions. So now we've got 2 extra missions that we can look at. So,
Jim,
Meinhof.
refugee populations from across the sector have been using Meinhof as a staging point. But with so many people in close proximity, an epidemic of some kind has started sweeping through the camps. Please, my people need help. We've got to do something before it's too late.
It's just the continuation of the previous mission that we did.
Pretty much.
And then
I hear the mighty Jim Raynor's on the move, but short on funds. The planet Redstone's got the most valuable minerals around, and with the Zerg invasion, the Kilmorians packed up and left it all behind. Some enterprising men could turn a big profit there. Meet me at Redstone if you want a piece of the action.
alright, so Redstone, we got a new person that we've met, Gabriel Tosh.
New person, new unit, completely new to Starcraft. Pretty cool. And a very weird kind of mission where we're supposed to get a bunch of money.
Yep. So the new unit that we'll get here is the Reaper, which is a very interesting unit that can jump up and down cliffs, so it doesn't need ramps to go up and down cliffs. And it's kind of a light skirmish unit.
Yes. I guess 2 of the units available to us, the one from Meinhof and the one from Redstone 3, are both skirmisher units, since Meinhof gives us the Hellion.
Yep, and the Hellion, which we've seen a little bit earlier, and pretty much destroyed in the second mission. So we could also get that unit as well.
Okay, so we have Meinhof for the Hellion to help Dr. Hansen again. Redstone the Third to help out this new guy and get paid and get the Reaper, and Monolith.
Which is Tychus Findley's job to steal an artifact.
Yes, the smash and grab mission is still around.
Yep.
So
if we want the
the
Marauder.
missions will stay around until they're completed, so it's not like we're going to miss any.
Yeah. So which of these missions are we getting, and what upgrades are we going to get?